Alright, so welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to rebuild a VL Commodore distributor and more importantly show you how to change the infamous crank angle sensor. It's very straightforward. I always say that. Why do I always say it's very straightforward? What else can I say? It's not a hard task to do. I've done this plenty of times. I've got a couple different distributors here. So I've got a VL Commodore distributor. I've also got a R31 Skyline distributor. They are different. The crank angle sensors are different. The bodies are a bit different. However, they will work in each car. So don't be concerned if you need to pick up an R31 distributor. It will work in a VL. But yeah, I'll show you the differences. I'll show you what goes wrong with the distributors, and yeah, we'll put it all back together and we'll have a rebuilt VL Commodore distributor. So if you have a look here, this is a VL Commodore distributor and this is an R31 Skyline distributor. So if you have a quick look, you can see the shape of the body is different, and also the shape of the crank angle sensor, you know, the base plate, all that kind of stuff, it's different as well. I'll pull this one apart and I'll show you the insides. Alright, I've just got the cap on loosely, so that's just 2 screws for the cap. Rotor button, so there's normally an 8mm bolt that holds that on. It only goes on one way, you can't go wrong. Need to undo the 2 screws in the base plate. So show you a quick look inside. That's the crank angle sensor there. This is the trigger disc itself. That's very sensitive. You don't want to bend it, break it, get it dirty or anything like that. That must go in a certain way. If it is flipped, it can give you timing problems. Ask me how I know. I've done it before and it doesn't work out well. This thing on the side here is the power transistor, and down here we need to remove these screws as well, so we can slide the crank angle sensor out. So I might do these screws first, pull off the power transistor and pull the guts out. This just has like a little grounding connector, so when you put it back together you need to make sure that goes back in the right spot. Pull this little plate out. Behind the plate is this little seal, so you need to keep that. Then we're going to remove the center screw. If you have to grab the teeth of the gear with the vise, that should be fine. You can also replace the crank angle sensor while it's in the car. What that prevents happening is if you have issues with getting the distributor back into the right spot, because the distributor obviously has to be installed a certain way with the rotor button facing a certain way, otherwise your timing and everything like that will be way off. So maybe at the end of the video I'll show you how to install a distributor properly as well. Alright, so now I'm going to pull out this trigger disc. It's going to be simple. I'm just going to be very gentle not to break it, and I'm going to place that down and remember how that goes. Let's pull out this centerpiece, and then now there is 3 screws that hold that crank angle sensor to the body. One, two, three. So now those screws are out, I can just maneuver this crank angle sensor out, and then down here you can see the bearing. There's 2 screws that hold that in. So what can actually happen with these, there's a little washer there too, get that off if I can get my fingers on it. Righto, so what can actually happen with this rubber casing of the bearing, that can break down over time, and that can turn into dust, and what that dust will do will get into your trigger disc and then start making your optical sensor go a little haywire, and that will give you ignition problems, breakdown problems, all that kind of stuff. So sometimes when you start having crank angle sensor problems, it might not be the optical sensor itself, it could just be the bearing inside the distributor has shit itself, and that's causing all your issues. So what I suggest doing is getting one of these CAS crank angle sensor kits. Comes with a seal, bearing, new crank angle sensor, also has the CAS plug for up the top, so you can replace that in your loom, because that can I want to say fuck up, I don't know if I can put that on YouTube, but that can shit itself, and yeah, it's a good thing to have to replace it if you need to. Right, so I'll get this bearing out, I'll undo those screws. Some of these screws can be super tight, so make sure you get a decent set of screwdrivers and get a good bite into the head of the screws. Cool. Now, this is the little trick you want to do. So put this piece back on without this centerpiece, just on this shaft, and then lube. Probably shaking around a fair bit. I don't know if you can still see. This bench isn't really bolted down, so that's probably why it's giving me some issues. Bam. So as you can see, I've just knocked that shaft loose. So now I'll undo this top piece. Pull that bad boy out. grab myself a little punch. There's a shaft. I'll flip it. Almost got it. One bearing out. And then if you look in there, it's just got that little seal. So I'll get a pick and I'll get that bad boy out. Now this thing's probably never been apart, so got my little seal out. Cool. That, my friends, is the distributor pulled apart. And then now I'm going to clean up my mess and give this a nice clean down, and I'll probably give it a paint and stuff like that, and then I'll show you how to put it all back together. So while we're waiting for that paint to dry, we might quickly talk about you know, VL distributors, the crank angle sensor, and other ways of picking up your, I guess, signal for your ignition. So the VL Commodore distributor is definitely quite aged and is renowned for having reliability problems. You know, basically the crank angle sensor can just shit itself at any time and can leave you in the lurch. What I generally like to do is I like to keep a distributor just in the boot of the car, so if the crank angle sensor ever does shit itself, I can just quickly swap the dizzy and I'm on the road again. So you could also keep a crank angle sensor in the glove box and some basic tools, and if you have a problem you can quickly swap it out in about 15 minutes. So that's my my tip for young players in the VL Commodore crank angle sensor game. When you start getting into high horsepower applications, particularly high revving engines, whether it be your RB30 single cam, or even you know, your twin cam Skyline motors and stuff like that, what people do is they start putting you know, crank triggers off the harmonic balancer. The reason they do that is you don't get the timing belt flex. So it's called a crank angle sensor, but really it actually runs off the cam, off a gear that's on the front of the cam, and that's how it picks it up. So at high RPM, this belt, right, it's going to flex, and that's going to give you timing fluctuations, which is known as timing scatter. So you're going to see like your signal you know, move around a little bit, and that's not what you want when you've got a high horsepower high revving car, because that's going to give you issues, because timing and things like that is something that you want to have spot on. You know, for something like your basic VL turbo setup, maybe around that 500 horsepower mark, you can definitely get away with using the standard distributor. There's also upgrades for the trigger disc. So instead of it being 360 slots, you can get it down to like, you know, 24 slots to 1 or stuff like that. But you need an aftermarket computer to be able to do that setup. For the time being, both my cars run the distributor with the normal crank angle sensor in it. However, in time, as you know, the necessity to do the upgrade exists, then I'll definitely go down that route. But for the time being, I'm just keeping them factory dizzy, and so far I haven't really had any problems with the GAS trigger, the GAS crank angle sensor kit that I put in the white car. So I'm using that same GAS kit for this car as well. Alright guys, or girls, I was just sitting here trying to finish off the rest of this video, and I got to the part where I was editing the installation of the crank angle sensor and putting it all, the distributor all back together, and yeah, the files are corrupted and it's just stuck on the first frame of the video, and all the audio and everything's still recorded. So not too happy about that, and a few of the quick Google searches that I've done on this issue, it doesn't look too good in regards to me recovering that footage. What I'll probably do, I'm just going to release this video as a part 1, and if I can sort the other footage out, great. I'll sort that out and make another video. If not, I'll probably pull it back apart again, and I'll record putting it all back together and then showing you how to install it in the car. These things happen, but yeah, I'll sort it out. Peace.